We've never had a really big and hostile country come into our markets. Most of the international competition we have faced from Japan, from Germany, from the rest of Europe has come without a sense that behind it was a government that has sought confrontations with the United States on a regular basis.
The WTO is not based here. I mean, who in the United States is on the WTO? Does anybody know?
In 2001, China joined the WTO, the World Trade Organization, with the strong support of a Democratic president and a Republican-controlled Congress. Before the ink was dry on this free trade agreement, China began flooding American markets with its illegally subsidized and very dangerous exports, while the big multinational companies that had lobbied heavily for the agreement rapidly accelerated the offshoring of American factories and American jobs to China. Today, as a result of the biggest political shell game in American economic history, China has stolen thousands of our factories and millions of our jobs. Multinational corporation profits are soaring, and we now owe over $3 trillion to the world's largest communist nation. This was not how it was supposed to turn out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
When William Jefferson Clinton was selling China's entry into the World Trade Organization to the American people.
If you believe in a future of greater openness and freedom for the people of China, you ought to be for this agreement. If you believe in a future of greater prosperity for the American people, you certainly should be for this agreement. If you believe in a future of peace and security for Asia and the world, you should be for this agreement. This is the right thing to do. It's an historic opportunity and a profound American responsibility.
In pushing for China's entry into the WTO, President Clinton embraced a doctrine dating back to President Richard Nixon, known in Washington circles as the policy of engagement.
Peking, historic site for an unprecedented meeting between East and West. President and Mrs. Nixon arrive, and Premier Zhou Enlai is on hand to extend an official welcome to the presidential couple. It's Mr. Nixon's initial move toward his self-proclaimed goal, a generation of peace.
Here, President Clinton offers his own vision of the goal of engaging China.
I don't believe it's right to crack down on people for their religious views or their political expression or because they want to be in an association like the Falun Gong. I don't think that's right. But I don't believe that we will have more influence on China by giving them the back of our hand.
In masterfully arguing for China's entry into the World Trade Organization, President Clinton promised the brightest of futures for both American workers and American manufacturers.
Economically, this agreement is the equivalent of a one-way street. It requires China to open its markets with a fifth of the world's population, potentially the biggest markets in the world. For the first time, China will agree to play by the same open trading rules we do. Never happened before. For the first time, our companies will be able to sell and distribute products in China made by workers here in America.
And by economically engaging China, both Democrats and Republicans argued this would ultimately democratize the Chinese dragon and free the Chinese people.
We have waged an intense battle in support of an important principle, and that is freedom. And the people of China and the citizens of the United States will benefit enormously.
After the victory vote, the Republican House Majority Leaders would celebrate the bipartisan victory with the cracking open of a ceremonial fortune cookie.
Not very good at these things. It's got a lottery number, no. It says, new American proverb. New prosperity awaits you because normal trade relations. Yeah! It's a confrontation of worldviews that we will win, and I'm looking forward to the future.
It most certainly will result in more unemployment in the U.S. and to the advantage of China. We're chumps.
So just how big of a chump has America been for supporting China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001?
It's like we're in the Super Bowl of globalization, and in fact, we're being taken apart.
And in this Super Bowl of globalization, when you tally up the score on human rights abuses and consider the plight of Tibet, the torture of the Falun Gong, and the crushing of religion and democracy, this much is clear.
The Chinese government is the world's worst human rights abuser on the planet today.
And when you tally up the score on China's rapid military buildup, this too is clear.
China is the only major nation in the world that is preparing to kill Americans.
And of course, when you count the jobs lost and factories gone and millions of Americans out of work.
American manufacturing has been in an absolute crisis over the last decade.
5.5 million manufacturing jobs gone.
57,000 manufacturing facilities closed in this nation.
So you're in a massive jobless recovery. You've got 28 million women and men who are in various stages of unemployment, twice the official number.
When you tally up all these scores, it's crystal clear that China's entry into the World Trade Organization has been both a losing and a very dangerous proposition, even as America has all but completely surrendered its manufacturing base to China.
China until today is a totalitarian regime, is a dynasty. No change at all, not republic. Not people's country.
We need to understand China better. We have this sort of glowy view of the trajectory of China's history. But what we have seen, especially over the last couple of years, is a China that is moving in the wrong directions on everything. And it's not just human rights, it's its relations with its neighbors, its economy, you name it. This is a country that is going backwards in all phases.
I hear people referring to the PRC or the People's Republic. Well, let's be honest, as soon as we accept that phrase, we're joining China in the reality distortion field. It's a lie. It is not the People's, and it is not the Republic. Stop saying that. It's Communist China.
We've got to spread the word that there's danger out there, and we need to change our policies. We can no longer afford to treat a communist dictatorship in China as we would treat any other democratic institution, because they have treated us like fools.
Just a few weeks before that, you have former United Nations official John Ash dying while lifting weights. Initially, the United Nations reported that he died of a heart attack, but then local police actually came out and said, no, his windpipe was crushed. His throat was crushed when a barbell fell on it, which they said was an accident, and that he did it to himself while working out, which, interestingly enough, just so happens to mirror the plot of a Columbo episode from the 70s called An Exercise in Fatality, where a murderer drops a barbell on a guy.
What did you say? You said that he was here alone, he decided to work out?
And makes it look like a weightlifting accident.
Because that's how ridiculous it is.
It's so ridiculous. And it just so happens that Ash was set to testify in a huge bribery scandal that, you guessed it, would have led right back to the Clintons and the DNC. Apparently Ash and a Chinese businessman whose name I'm not going to say because I'll probably just butcher the crap out of it, were accused of smuggling $4.5 million into the United States and lying about what it was going to be for. And the Chinese businessman is identified in a 1998 Senate document as the source of hundreds of thousands of dollars illegally being funneled through an Arkansas restaurant to the DNC during the Clinton administration. It turned into a huge scandal when all of this came out, because it turned out that the businessman was favored with more than 10 visits to the White House, including an elevator ride with Hillary Clinton. And all of these people have come out to say that this trial would have been very embarrassing. So John Ash's death, and you can see him here shaking hands with Hillary, is very, very convenient to the Hillary campaign. He winds up with a barbell crushing his windpipe. It's almost like a mafia movie. If it was in a mafia movie, wouldn't that send a message to any other snitches who might talk, a guy having his windpipe crushed?
But I'm tempted to come in the next few days and tape a special broadcast about NAFTA and GATT and the WTO and the IMF and the World Bank and the TPP and all the rest of it, and break down in their own words how they're establishing a corporate world government. Because this speech is the best I've ever seen in my lifetime against globalism. He points out that Hillary is a foreign agent of the Chinese. He says that she is an agent in a trade war against us. These are quotes. He says, if I get elected, the era of American economic surrender is over. He says they threaten us with trade war. Ladies and gentlemen, we're already in a trade war. We're already under attack. We're already having our jobs sold off to the communist Chinese. Hillary is an agent and has been an agent since the communist Chinese were funding money through Don Tyson of Tyson Chicken, who ran the Clintons. They were formerly CIA. That's been leaked. They were handled by Strobe Talbot at Oxford. But the globalists allowed them to operate at that level as double agents because Henry Kissinger, who they're best friends with and they vacation with, and the Bushes, Bush Sr. was the first ambassador to China after relations opened back up, they made a traitorous, high-level, unilateral deal that Nixon wasn't even aware of and tried to end. That's why they basically impeached him and set him up. He wasn't an angel, but he said, what, you've made a bunch of secret deals? Kissinger, you're in trouble. And Kissinger's like, no, you're in trouble. We control the press. Bye-bye. But this goes back to what happened in the 1970s. You wonder why the Bushes are in charge? You wonder why the Clintons are in charge? You wonder why they call themselves family? You want to know why we just can't seem to get rid of them like a bad case of herpes? It's because they are literally on the payroll of the communist Chinese. That's really who controls them. They also get financed to a great extent by the Saudi Arabians. There's an Israel lobby, but it's mainly about Israel. And it does bad stuff. It gets our secrets and sells it to the Chinese as well. I mean, Israel, to a great extent, is working for the Chinese. 1.5 billion of them, folks, almost 1.5 billion, and they're used as slaves. They have no rights. They have no economic future other than being chattel. They're very smart, hardworking people, so they're the perfect robot army. China is the first robot army. The globalists wanted hundreds of millions of slaves. They've got them. Hundreds of millions of workers. I mean, it's got to be 600, 700 million workers out of 1.4 billion Chinese, and they have got them. And they are leveraging out all of our jobs, all of our factories, all of our future, everything from animation to silicon, to drugs, to prescription drugs, to rare earth minerals, to electronics. It's all going to be China. China is already 97 to 98%, depending on the year, in control of rare earth minerals. Strategically, the globalists do not allow the UK or Germany or France or the US or Canada or Australia to be involved in rare earth minerals. China has been given it in a global treaty. They've been given the Panama Canal and almost all of our deep water ports. They've been given the separation systems, the launch boost systems, the guidance systems, the reentry systems, the MIRV systems, the warhead systems, the targeting systems, the GPS systems, the keys to everything, backdoor codes to all the chips. We are wide open. You've got that demonic Communist Party Politburo and Central Committee passing power down since the 1930s when Mao had rebels up in the mountains, when he took over in 1949 and started killing 84 million people over the next 15 years. And criminal elements of our CIA put him in. That's now been declassified 10 years ago. Declassified in 2005. Look it up. We knew about it because the John Birch Society blew the whistle when they were founded in the 1950s because of that. Because of U.S. agents who were in the CIA and OSS before that who wouldn't be part of it, Army officers and others that were tortured and killed. And Christian mercenaries and other groups. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is completely and totally out of control. And Donald Trump gets up there and says China is in a trade war with us. China is shutting us down. Our elites have sold out our industrial base as a tool of control. And Hillary is an agent against us in that trade war. That's a quote. Hillary is an agent against us in that trade war. And let me tell you how this works, folks. It's a mafia. We have had in 2 separate cases, communist Chinese try to control what we say and do here, including infiltration. We have had the communist Chinese try to shut Paul Watson down with threats, and I mean real threats in London.